Hello everybody, Peter the Book Lover here. Welcome to my channel. If you're coming for the first time, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. And I'm doing the Read What You Own challenge, and I've got 5 books down. It took me a while. This is the end of November. I thought I was going to get done a little bit earlier, but some of these books were pretty long, so they took me a while to finish. So I'm having a great time doing it. So we've got 5 down, and let's talk about the 5 books that I've read so far. Now, before I started this, this has 2 books in here by Jack London. One is The Call of the Wild, and the other one is White Fang. White Fang is what I read for this challenge, but I've read, before I did that, I actually reread Call of the Wild, and that's a really wonderful book. If you've never read Call of the Wild, I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful story. And I enjoy this a little bit more than White Fang. But at the same time, White Fang is a really incredible story. The beginning of this book starts out like a horror movie. This is, imagine being out in the wilderness, being surrounded, and you don't have a gun, no firearms, and you're surrounded by a pack of hungry wolves. And they're eating your dogs. Each night you wake up, you're one less dog, and the reason why the dogs are getting missing is because the wolves are eating them, and they're getting closer and closer. And you've got 3 chapters, which is kind of a horror movie, but then you have a couple of chapters that leads to the birth of White Fang. And as you're reading this, you got to imagine a puppy wolf. And I've actually looked up some pictures of them, and they're really adorable. So you're seeing this wolf grow up, and then you see them actually get captured, and then you see him getting, having a couple owners. You've got some good people that are his owners, and from the dog's angle, they look at them as like gods. Human beings are like gods to these creatures because they're the rulers. They make up the rules, and you better follow the rules or you're going to get the club. So he has a bunch of, different people that possess this wolf dog. And some of them are really great. Some of them are really bad. And this is kind of like a life story of this wolf. And it's a really wonderful story. I really enjoyed it a lot. I highly recommend it. It's a little bit longer than White Fang. I mean, it's a little bit longer than Call of the Wild, but White Fang was a really wonderful story about this wolf. And I really enjoyed it a lot. And it's a classic, and I highly recommend it. So that's the first book that I finished. Then the next book that I read was Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. This is a sequel to The Shining, and this is a sequel to the book of The Shining, not a sequel to the movie of The Shining. And a funny thing is that Stephen King really didn't like the movie by Stanley Kubrick of The Shining. And there's a movie to this that's not a sequel of this book. It's more of a sequel of the movie, because you actually go back to the Overlook Hotel from the movie version, not the version from the book of The Shining. And I reread The Shining before I read this book, and that's a really incredible story. I highly recommend that. This is an interesting story as well. Now, what this story is about is Danny Torrance is an adult, and in the movie, his father was an alcoholic, and in this book, Danny becomes an alcoholic. And this book starts where he's really at a low point, and he finally actually decides to clean up, and he moves to a new town, tiny town in Fraser something, I forgot, Utah or something like that, someplace close to Colorado. And he moves in this new town, and he joins AA and actually gets a job in a hospice which is a place where old people go to die. That really, I think it's a place to where they really, the family members can't take care of them anymore. And it's an old folks home, but an old folks home where you're really close to your end because you're very old. And an interesting part of the story is there's a cat at this hospice that actually knows when people are going to go. And when this cat comes and visits you, you know your time is up. And that was one of my favorite parts of the story. And the story about him actually going to AA meetings, that was pretty interesting in my opinion as well. And also the part of how Danny is helps support the people that are getting ready to die, and he's a comfort to people that are about to die. And then this story is also about this character right here. You can see her face. This is Rose the Hat. Now, Rose the Hat is a leader of a group of people that are called the True Knot. And the True Knot are a lot like vampires, but they're not vampires, but they have a lot of characteristics of the vampire. Instead of, they could be around in the day, they don't have that, but they actually live a long time like vampires do. And they feed off of people with the shining. It's not blood. They don't feed off their blood, but they feed off of the steam, because people that have shining, when they die, they release a steam in the air. You know, Danny Torrance has the shining. That's where the shining is, to where you could actually predict things. You could actually read people's minds and stuff like that. And when these people have this power, they actually, when they die, they produce the steam. And these people actually hunt down people with the shining so they could steal their steam. And they actually take their steam and they store it so they could feed off of it later. And once they inhale this steam, they actually become stronger, and it keeps them young. And this also leads into another character, Abra. And this is a girl that's Danny's age when he was in The Shining. And she's got The Shining as well. And this group of people, the True Knots, are getting ready to hunt this girl. And then it's going to lead to kind of a showdown. You know, there's all these things. I really don't want to give away too much, but then it leads to a showdown. Now, the thing that's really interesting about this is that after reading this book, I actually own the DVD of this movie. So I actually watched this movie after reading this book, and watching the DVD really improved this. It changed a lot of things, but the movie is kind of a sequel to the Stanley Kubrick movie of The Shining. You know, so I kind of enjoyed it, because there are scenes to where they go back to the Overlook Hotel, and I wonder what Stephen King thinks about that, because Stephen King really didn't like the way that Stanley Kubrick changed things around. But yeah, there's scenes to where they go back to the Overlook Hotel. You actually go back to that maze, and I really, me myself personally, I always thought that maze was really cool. The, you know, in the snow and everything, and when they're running around that. They also get into room 237 instead of room 217, I believe, was from the book. But yeah, watching the movie after this definitely improved things. They changed a lot of things. The ending is completely different in the movie than it is in the book. And I prefer the ending to the movie than I did to the book. The book, it was a little disappointing, the showdown at the end. It could have been, I thought there was going to be a lot more to it. But this is The Shining. This is Dr. Sleep by Stephen King. And yes, I do recommend this, but I'm going to tell you, this is nowhere near as good as Misery. And this is nowhere near as good as The Shining itself. Pet Sematary is better than this. But this book did have a lot of really cool parts in it. and I really enjoyed it a lot. Although this took me quite a while to read this. This was a pretty big one, 500 and something pages. Oh, look at the back. Pretty cool. So then I read this book. This is Marathon Man by William Goldman. And I was very familiar with this movie. The movie to Marathon Man I've seen about 6, maybe 7 times. And it's an excellent movie. And now that I've read this book, there's I see there was a couple things in this movie they actually improved upon this book. And I really, really enjoyed the improvements they made. But at the same time, this was a fantastic thriller. This was amazing. As a matter of fact, when I'm done with this challenge, I plan on buying a better copy of this. This isn't a bad copy, but you got to be delicate with this book because it's kind of falling apart a little bit. Not badly, but, if you're rough with this book, it's going to fall apart. But what this story is it starts off with a car accident because there's a Jewish person and a German person. They have a road rage incident, and it winds up turning into disaster. Now, that in the movie was definitely better in the movie. The way this started out, I really loved the car chase scene in the movie. This was pretty good, but it was better in the movie. And then this book gets into some kind of a CIA agents type of stuff. And there's a CIA agent, Salas, I think it is, which is the name of a Greek sea god, And you get into a couple things about this agent, Salas. And then we get into the main character. He is called Babe a lot of times, or Levy a lot of times, but it goes into him training to be a marathon man. And this guy really wants to be a marathon man, and he's studying to be a marathon man. And it's kind of funny that this is called Marathon Man because it really makes sense to the story. Him being a marathon man really has something that happens later on in the story that I don't want to give away that makes it, why this is called Marathon Man makes a lot of sense. But he's training to be a marathon man, and at the same time, he's a student, and he's trying really hard to be a very good student. And you get into his story about what he's doing in life and how he's trying to be a historian and everything. Then he meets a girl, and it's really the way that he hits on this woman in this book was really fantastic. It was really fun to read, and he winds up being successful, getting with this girl, and then he brags to his brother about it, and then his brother sets up a dinner they're going to have together, and then once you get to this dinner, I'm not going to explain anything that happens beyond that, but once they go into this dinner, there's all these crazy things that happen during the dinner, and this just gets better and better. This is a fantastic thriller. I am not joking. I love the movie, but the way this book is, it's like so many chapters ends in a way that really makes you want to keep on reading. As a matter of fact, when I'm done with this challenge, I plan on buying another copy of this book that's in better condition. This is not in the best condition, this paperback, but this was really wonderful. As a matter of fact, this is this could be my favorite book of the whole 5 books that I've read. It's neck and neck with White Fang, because this was really wonderful. If you ever get a chance to read this book, Marathon Man, or if you ever get a chance to see this movie is incredible, and this book is incredible as well. Okay, so that's 3. The next one that I read was by Charles Dickens. This is Great Expectations. Now, this is my third favorite Charles Dickens book that I've read so far. Now, this one's kind of hard to explain. This has got a lot of twists and turns, but at the same time, this is I think a 550-page book, but this book feels like you're reading 1,000 pages. There's a lot of dry parts to this story, but there's a lot of little plot twists and like reveals that are really great in this book. Now, my least favorite book by Charles Dickens that I've read so far was Oliver Twist. That was not my favorite. Then this is my second least favorite. Then my third least favorite is A Tale of Two Cities. That book has some dry parts too, but that book, man, the executions during the Revolutionary War was really wonderful. I love the French Revolution in that story. The guillotine is a big feature that I really enjoyed. And then my favorite, the best one that I've read by Charles Dickens so far is A Christmas Carol. I think that is really wonderful. But yeah, this book, it starts off to where he's at a graveyard and he meets a convict, and a convict wants him to steal a file, and steal some food for him, and he goes and does this. And then you get into his home life, and then he actually sees this convict getting arrested. And then after that, he winds up getting, because there's a Pumbachuk, I forget his name, but he sets him up with this old lady that was about to get married, and then she got left on the altar, and it really messed her up for life, man. I mean, she kind of stopped living once she got stood up by being married. And there's also this young girl that's there. What's her name? I forgot her name. Stella. Estella is a young girl that's there, and he winds up getting an inheritance, but he doesn't know who it's from, and there's reveals throughout this book. And this was an interesting book. This might be a case to where it might be a good idea to watch a summary of this book to see if you would like to read this. This might not be your thing. It is kind of boring, but at the same time, I did enjoy this because it did have a lot of times to where you'd find out stuff, so stuff would be revealed as this book goes along. And there's a couple really interesting scenes in this book, and I really enjoyed this a lot. This wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I'm still glad that I finally got around to reading this, and I know what this book is about. And this is a book that I would read again in the future, because it was a decent enough book. And knowing that, all these like twists and turns that you're going to be given in this book, I could enjoy this a little bit more, probably the second time, because I know what things are going to happen. And, I'll know about characters, what they're really like, because you actually find out what certain characters are like in the end, Oh, and an interesting thing about this, the copy that I have, is there's a paragraph with a different ending. So you've got the original ending, and then this book contains an alternate ending that Charles Dickens wrote later. And another thing about that this was released in like 56 chapters. So I think it was 56 days, or I think it was 56 weeks, to where you had to wait each week to read each chapter. So back in the day, the people probably read each chapter several times while they're waiting for the next chapter. And I only read this once because I'm trying to do this challenge. I didn't spend more time with it. If I wasn't doing this challenge, I would have spent more time with this and reread stuff, a couple things to make it a little bit clearer. But yes, this was a decent book. I don't highly recommend this, but at the same time, I'm glad that I finally got around to reading that. Okay, so the last book that I read was by Thomas Keneally, and this is Schindler's List. And now, this is another case to where I was very familiar with the movie. I've seen Schindler's List about 5 different times, and it's not a wonderful movie. It is a wonderful movie, but it's a serious drama. And all the things that really shock you are in this book. But this book is a little bit different because there's a lot more of the details of getting to the events that happened in the movie. Steven Spielberg did a really wonderful job with this movie, but at the same time, this was a really wonderful book. Interesting things, this is listed as fiction, but this is so close to actual history that this is almost like fiction, like history, a history book. And the thing about it is, this guy kind of did the same thing that Truman Capote did with In Cold Blood, where he presents this in a novel form instead of like making this a history book form. Yeah, and you've got 2 characters in this book. You've got Oskar Schindler, and this guy actually winds up being a hero. In the end, you know, like he saves so many people's lives, and like one of the lines in this book is, there was a Schindler's List, and it was worth everything to be on it. Which is, you know, all the people that he saved. Because if you went to his concentration camp, you weren't going to get killed, you weren't going to get beaten, and, you know, he did everything he could to save people. Now, he had 2 factories. He had one in Prešov, and then he had another one. What was it? The name of it? He had another one afterwards, and in the first one, it was connected to another concentration camp ran by Amon Goeth. Yeah, that's his name. Amon Goeth. Amon Goeth is like this ruthless Nazi, played by Ralph Fiennes in the movie, and in the book, he's just as ruthless. He's the type of person that will just kill you for the hell of it, you know what I mean? He was just murdering people, any displeasure. Like, one interesting part was he had a manicurist that was over there fixing his nails and doing his nails, and every time she'd come over to do his nails, she asked him, why do you always have this revolver right by your hand at all times when I'm working on you? And he's like, that's, of course, in case you nick me. And he would just kill you. He had these 2 killer dogs. They were Doberman Pinschers. And he was a really terrifying guy. Now, near the end of the movie, he winds up getting arrested. Well, the end of the book, he nearly gets arrested, and they actually see him again, and they have hatred for him. But the thing about it is, he doesn't have the same power when he's a civilian. But yes, this was a really fantastic book. I definitely plan on reading it again. Now, the thing about that and Great Expectations, both of these I actually, on YouTube, they have audiobooks available for this and an audiobook available for this. And the audiobook really helped me a lot because there's a lot of German names, and it really helped me with all the German names. But this is the 5th book that I've read, and this was really fascinating. I do like In Cold Blood a little bit more than this, but at the same time, this book had a lot of really interesting things, and a lot of the scenes, like the one, I don't know if you've seen Schindler's List, but there's a scene to where there's a woman that's kind of wants to let them know, because she's an engineer, and she said, if you leave this building the way it is, it's going to collapse. You've got to fix this. And Amon Garth just says, shoot her right here. And then after they shoot her, in the movie, it's really incredible because they do a close-up on her face when she knows she's going to die. But after he has her shot, he actually listens to what she was suggesting. And there's a bunch of crazy stuff that happens in this book. Schindler's List is definitely a wild ride. And I just finished that now. So this was really great. Okay, so those are the 5 books that I've read so far. Of course, I'm going to show you the 5 books that I've got planned. Now, I've read the first chapter of this. This is The Master and Margarita. And I've already read the first chapter. And the first chapter is really fantastic. I can tell you that I'm going to enjoy this book. Oh, yeah, I'm not really going to give away too much because I really don't know too much, but this starts off with 2 guys that are on a bench and they're having a conversation and they're both atheists, and then there's a character that kind of approaches them and has a conversation with them, and he's glad that they're atheists. Now, I think this guy is supposedly, because I know this book is about the devil, and I believe he is the devil because he's very happy that they're atheists. And at the end, he goes, Jesus Christ did exist. So this was pretty cool so far. I've only read 1 chapter, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to reading the rest of this book. Now, the next book that I have planned is the book called Hatchet. This is a story about somebody getting stuck with a hatchet in the woods. And you got a wolf or a dog in the picture. But I've heard that this is a really wonderful book, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is going to be the second book that I've read, that I will read. The next one I'm planning on reading is Choke by Chuck Palahniuk. And the reason why I chose this book, because I really loved Fight Club. Fight Club was an amazing book, and I definitely would like to read another book by him. Then I am planning on reading my second book by Dashiell Hammett, and this is The Glass Key. And I'm excited to get into this because I did enjoy The Maltese Falcon quite a bit. Although it's kind of irritating. There's something about The Maltese Falcon that I didn't like, but I still am looking forward to reading more of Dashiell Hammett because his writing style is great. And the last one of the 5 that I'm going to show you, and this is written by Hans Christian Andersen, and this is the short story of The Little Mermaid. This actually also has The Ugly Duckling, The Red Shoes, Thumbelina, The Emperor's New Clothes, The Princess and the Pea, and The Snow Queen. And I think there's a couple others in here as well. But yeah, there's just a bunch of short stories. But the main reason why I got this was for The Little Mermaid. Because I really love the movie of The Little Mermaid. And I'm looking forward to checking this out. Now, one other challenge that I'm doing at the same time is 10 Before the End. And I'm going to try to finish this one before we get into 2026. And this is a Star Wars story. This is a series of books set, I believe, right after Return of the Jedi. But yeah, this has all the main characters of Star Wars. We've got Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca's in these stories as well, R2-D2 and C-3PO, and I'm looking forward to reading that as well. So that's it. Now, I'm not ending this video, so if you've made it this far, I really want to thank you for being here. It means a lot to me that you're giving me your time. Thank you so much. Now, if you like this video, please hit the like button now, and if you really like it, subscribe and all that stuff, and that's it. 5 down, 95 to go. Let's do this. Thank you. See you next time.